Theresa F.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Theresa. I'm an alcoholic.
Hi, Theresa.
Hi. Grateful to be here. Grateful to be sober. Thank you so much, Carl, and the meeting, all of you for having me. Again, for like another year. We all here, made it. Another 365 days. We're sober. Oh, goodness gracious. Okay. I'm trying to get comfortable. Got a lot going on in my brain right now. I was praying before we got started. I was doing a lot of schoolwork, so you have to bear with me. I literally just finished a midterm on statistics, so my brain is tripping right now. I'm sorry. I got numbers going on. Okay. I'm trying to become present for this experience. I'm always nervous. This is uncomfortable and awkward, even in the camera. I think the camera even makes it more awkward. But here I am. I want to stay sober, and that's why I do it. And it's just good to see a lot of familiar faces and to be a part of you in any way, shape, or form that I can. My sobriety date. I have a birthday that just passed on the 29th of March. 1990. That is insane. I've been taking that in. It took me a minute when I took my cake at Big Book Study that I was celebrating 30 years. That was just, I don't know. I just had to take that in for a second. Thank God we only do this one day at a time. I want to welcome our new friends and welcome home. I'm glad you're here. We hope you keep coming back. It's going to be all right. You know, I learned you don't have to take a drink again if you want to, more importantly, if you don't want to. And the program really, really works. And the old timers in the house, thank you for my life and my sobriety. I'm so grateful that you keep suiting up and showing up just to let me know that I can recover. I'm going to share in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we're like now. And I get an opportunity to do a Reader's Digest, you know? And I invite you to listen to similarities and not the differences, and ask yourself some questions like that happened to me. And I felt that way too, and perhaps this program can work for me. I do a lot of reflecting, usually before a birthday and throughout the year, do so much writing. A lot has happened, and I live with my mom, and just a lot of stuff has come up for me in the last year. And I was talking to my cousin the other day, and it was just interesting to speak to him about the way it was like and the way we grew up and the things that he remembered. It was just an interesting conversation. We had never really visited or really discussed the intensity of what I endured or what I grew up with. And so it was just an interesting conversation. I'm born addicted. I came into this, you know, I was conceived with alcoholism. My mother's an alcoholic, and I came out of her womb loaded, and I was left in the hospital, brought home, and alcohol was the only thing that was given to me. And I'm still amazed that I survived. And at the same token, I have a clear understanding of why I survived, because I suffer from the allergy of the body. There's no other way. There's no other reason why you would give an infant alcohol and not die from alcohol poisoning, because I wasn't given any nutrition, any food. I was only given alcohol, and I survived. And that just further tells me and validates that I'm an alcoholic. And so I drank my entire life. It was part of my oxygen. It was part of who I was. It was my existence. It was everything that I knew. It was my nutrients. It was my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Sometimes I say I'm really jealous of people who had an experience of meeting alcohol later on in life, and they're able to describe that first relationship that they had with alcohol, and that it gave them that warm and fuzzy feeling. I get jealous about that, because I can't tell you the day that I made a conscious choice to drink. That's all I did. That's all I did. I drank all the time. It's so trippy. That's what my cousin and I were talking about. And it was so normal. I mean, no one in the family tried to stop it. If anything, they condoned it. They supported it. They gave me more of it. the only debate that took place about my drinking was my grandmother and my father, and they lost that battle. Daddy eventually left by the time I was 2. My grandmother eventually left. She just couldn't. She couldn't take it anymore. She couldn't take the powerlessness of trying to get the bottle out of my mouth. Mommy wasn't having it, and alcohol won out. And so I was left just at home with my mom and my brother and booze. And my brother never understood the relationship between my mother, myself, and alcohol. He just didn't. And my brother made many attempts to intervene and to help and to change. And he too, if he were here, would say he was powerless. He couldn't do anything. He tried to have me run. I think he tried to take me away around the age of 5, and he was 8. And he packed the bag, and he said he was taking me out of there and he was going to rescue me, and told mom he was leaving, and she said goodbye. And he said we got to the front of the building and realized that he was 8 and I was 5. There was nowhere for us to go. So we went back upstairs. But he said he vowed that he would figure out a way to get me out of there. And so I ended up leaving. He went to the military, and I left at the age of 14. I was actually emancipated. And I was in juvie, and I left out of there, and I went to the courts, and the judge told my mother that I was not a juvenile delinquent. I did not have issues with authority figures, but it was something that would happen to me the moment she walked in the room. And so up until that point, the life that I lived, between infant until I was 14 in the home was inundated with physical abuse, verbal abuse, and sexual abuse. And that was the norm. And that was something that everybody did. It was just something everybody did. I still, more and more will be revealed. I don't know why that was the case. I really don't. I don't know if someone was told they can do with me as they chose, when they chose to do it, because it was aunts, uncles, babysitters, cousins, neighbors. It just seemed to be everybody. I don't know why that was okay. By the time I was 14, I had a boyfriend who was 26, and he beat me on a daily basis and kept me hostage for 3 years. It turned out he really kind of kidnapped me. He was my kidnapper, and I wasn't allowed to leave the home. The door was dead bolted, and he just kept me supplied with Southern comfort. And I didn't try to run away or get out. I let him do whatever he wanted to do to me or anyone else that he brought over to the house. And he would beat me and do all kinds of things. And that's just how I lived for 3 years. And that's a whole other story on how I finally got out of there and escaped. And from there, moving forward, all of my relationships were what you call dysfunctional and unhealthy. I learned to get into money, property, and prestige, and to always look good on the outside, and to be successful and have company and make 6 figures. And I always drank, and no one got in the middle between me and my booze. It was very clear that that was a relationship that would never change. Alcohol spoke to me, man. It told me that it loved me and it cared about me, and that nobody else did. And if nobody else was going to care about me or love me, it was going to take care of me. And it muffled the noise. It closed my ears from the name calling. It shut my eyes to see the things that people were doing to me. And it shut me off emotionally to feel whatever was happening to me. And I lived like that for 24 years. And it's crazy because it wasn't as though I lived in like some seedy places or crevices or the darkness. I went to the nicest restaurants and bars, and I even worked in the Empire State Building, and I lived this life, went to Studio 54, and all my friends, my family members are my friends, and everybody's alcoholic and addicts, and we just partied and we have fun. And I spent half the year in Puerto Rico and half the year in New York. I got family members that we call mafia, gangsters, and mucho respect, man. They still make me laugh. I love to hear the things they be doing to people. I have to say it, they do. They crack me up. I always tell folks that I can't go around my family talking about love and tolerance is our code. You know what I'm saying? Like, why are you cutting off his legs? Where are you at fault? You know what I mean? That would be funny. And they'd be like, you've been in California too long. At the same time, you know, I had politicians and police officers as cousins, and this was a way of life for me, folks. You know, I didn't do a New Year's resolution. I didn't say tomorrow's gonna be different. I need to reduce my drinking and I need to stop. Like, this is the way it was. You know, that it was gonna be like that, and I was gonna die like everybody else in my family. And I welcomed death. I was waiting for it so that everybody could celebrate it. And so I wasn't planning on changing it. I lived on the edge. I took chances. I took risks. And I always dressed up my outside. I look flawless. I look at pictures today and my hair is done. I got jewelry and fur and I'm looking good on the outside. But if you look at my eyes, ain't nobody home, man. I didn't have a heartbeat. I was detached and disconnected. And so what ended up happening to me and how did I end up here? You know, I hear a lot of stories in the rooms, and I understand that alcoholism is insidious and no respecter of any person, place, or thing. And I'm not an alcoholic because I come from an alcoholic family. I am an alcoholic because the way in which alcohol affects my body. And I see people who are alcoholics who have loving parents, to the point that as my nephews were growing up throughout the years, I would always ask them, you know, what's your perspective? Because I learned from many of you, you know, to just check the temperature with them to see if they see the world the way I understand it. And there's this place that I believe that we all meet. And that is that for whatever reason, around the age of 24, alcohol betrayed me and it abandoned me and it left me emotionally retarded with no coping skills, man. You know, that's the only way I can describe it. You know, I don't mind doing incomprehensible, demoralizing things. I don't mind being disassociated from everybody and having no relationships and alcohol being the only thing I know. Alcohol told me when to get up, when to go to bed, where I was going to live. It dictated every single area. And then for whatever reason, you say it stopped working. It just stopped working. And I think that's alcoholic torture. That to me is alcoholic torture. That I'm restless, irritable, and discontent. And I'm looking for that ease and comfort. And no matter what I do, I don't get it. Right? And I can't catch it. And I can't grab it. And I can't get flatlined again. And I don't want to repeat that. There's nothing cute about that. Now I'm trying every combination necessary, man. I'm trying to get flatlined up in this piece. I don't know how to be present for my experience. I had never been here. I came in this world loaded, and I was kept loaded until I came to you. To me, that was a haunted house. It was traumatic. It was intense because now I can hear what was the name calling. I could see the things that people were doing to me. I began to feel what was happening to me. I didn't have words for it. I couldn't describe it. I didn't know another solution to remedy it. It was horrific. Horrific. I said, it was as though I was brought out of a coma or something, and I'm now in this thing you call life. I had never been here, man. I had never been here. Scared to death. My bottom lasted 6 months. I could not do another 24 like that. And I invited death in my life, and death didn't take me out. Death did not take me out. I remember I came into the rooms and an old timer told me death would be a luxury for me. Is living out this alcoholic, torturous life and being present, to me, is worse than anything else. I ended up in a church. I lived in Queens at the time. And I stepped in this church and I felt the presence. In our literature, it talks about only an act of providence can help a drunk like me. I reflect on that time. I don't remember stepping in there and saying I'm surrendered or I'm done or I want to get some help. I just remember that moment in time, the depths of desperation and pain and loneliness that I had no adjectives for. And I just knew that it was painful. Talk about the dark before the dawn or the jumping off place. I had words for that. I was just in that moment. And what became visible was the window of the grace of God. I believe I could have missed it. That's why I wish the newcomer the gift of desperation, man. You know, consequences never got my attention. And I said a prayer. Perhaps it's different than any other prayer. I know it came from the depths of my soul. And I asked God to please allow me to feel the peace that I felt in that church inside of me. I wanted one moment for my head to shut up and my skin to start, you know, crawling and my stomach to stop turning, man. And they would say, I feel like I lost my hustle, yo. I'm used to having a hustle, people. I couldn't get a grip. That was not cute. I'm sorry. I left there. I went to my father's house. I always, you know, that always gets me because what came out of my mouth was pretty crazy. You know, I said, Daddy, help me. And I never asked for help. I'll starve before I ask you for help. And so I don't know where that came from. Was God doing for me what I couldn't do for myself? Perhaps. And my father told me that all the love that he had for me, that I was standing in the middle of a crossroad and there was 3 directions I was headed. I could taste them and smell them. And that was jails, mental institutions, and death. But there was another road. It was called recovery. And that he didn't know anything about it, and neither do I. But if I gave it a try and if it didn't work out, the other 3 will be waiting for me. And I share that so I can remember it, you know, because every day I'm always standing in the middle of that crossroad. And perhaps there's caution tape, but there's no boulders and there ain't no, you know, there's no roadblocks, man. And I came to California because you have a tradition. It's called attraction rather than promotion. My mother is sober and my cousin. And I used to come to meetings when I would visit California. And maybe you messed up my drinking. They say once the seed's been planted, you can't drink the same again. No, I don't even remember paying attention to you guys, but I remembered you. I remember that the smiles and the laughter, and I remember that nobody ever rolled their eyes at me and sucked their teeth at me. That's really important. You know, that's really, really important for me today. You had this thing called unconditional love, and I didn't know what it was. I also think about, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, Michelle P. From the 5 o'clock meeting Saturday night, you know, then it was Crenshaw Lano. But Michelle, every time she went to New York, she used to come wherever I was at. And she would just smile and say, hey, you know, everybody knows Michelle. She's that way, kind of cool, you know, New Yorker. And she would just say, hey, how you doing? You know, I just came to say hi. I thought she was weird. Wait. You know, I want to know you wanted something to eat. But she wouldn't say much. And then I'd say no, and she would leave. And I remembered her. I remembered that she was kind, and she was smiling, and she looked happy, and she was nice to me. I remember nobody tried to shove a pamphlet down my throat, and I'm really grateful you didn't do that, because I believe I would have figured out how to die out there before I proved you right. And I arrived in downtown Los Angeles on March 29, 1990, wearing a size 1 pair of pants with 2 pants underneath, a huge sweatshirt, 4 months pregnant, didn't have a heartbeat by the time I got here. Still thinking I was cute, though. You know, it's kind of like I'm just having a moment. Just going through something at the moment. Give me a second. I'll get it together. And my mother picked me up, and she took me to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I got sober in Crenshaw Lano. That's where she took me, Crenshaw Lano, and 9604. And we walked in. I mean, literally, we came into the meeting. It was upstairs back then. It was off of King. And we went upstairs, and Mommy walked in the room, and she left. And I, you know, ran back, and I asked her where she was going. And she said, this is as far as I can go with you. She turned me over to the very people that had saved her life. You know, they told her Mommy couldn't help me. She did what she needed to do to be the attraction, but she couldn't help me. For years, I didn't go to meetings with Mommy. I hear a lot of people go to meetings with their family and share that experience. My uncle came into the program afterwards, and none of us have ever really done meetings together. It's only been recently that, you know, Mommy lives with me now, and she has Alzheimer's, and I take her with me to meetings. But whenever people saw me at my mother's home group meeting, they were usually worried if it wasn't her anniversary. I usually showed up at that meeting talking about, is this her home group? Where's her sponsor? You understand? No. Every time they still say that at Pacoima, they get nervous when what you do now, Sonia? I'll be outside. I'll be like, I need to talk to a sponsor real quick. Wait. Oh goodness. Oh man. I always mention Marcy when I came into the rooms because she was the first impression, like really the first impression when I arrived here. And she made a big impression on me. She was another Puerto Rican like myself, petite and tiny, but she walked with a strength. She had a strength. She walked tall and her chest was out. She walked, you know what I mean? She walked with this sense of self and security, not arrogance, not attitude, not mean. She just walked like she knew who she was, you know? And she came right up to me and she looked at me dead in my face. And I don't know if anybody I had looked in their eyes or in their face, you know what I mean? Forever. And she looked right at me and she said, hey, baby, we've been praying for you. And I thought you prayed for me because you knew my mother, but I found out you prayed for all those sick and suffering. And she said, God don't make no junk, baby girl. You deserve to be here. And she put her hands on my face and she said, you have a beautiful light inside of you, baby. And we just got a clean house so that light can shine. You know what trips me out that I remember that? Like I heard her. I didn't question her. I didn't doubt. I don't know. It's very strange. I believed Marcy. Instantly, I believed that I was not junk, that I deserved to be here. I don't know what light she's talking about, but she's saying that I have it and that it lived and resided inside of me. I don't know what she was referring to, but it sounded really interesting. I had never heard anything like that before. And I don't know what it's going to take about cleaning house, but whatever that was that Marcy said I had, I was interested in finding out what it was. No? And then she took me directly to the front of the meeting and she sat me down and she told me, people get touchy about this, but it worked for me. She told me that she wanted me to sit down and to shut up and to listen. To take the cotton out. That was my instructions. I remember that like yesterday. You take the cotton out of your ears and you put them in your mouth because your best thinking got you here. And the reason why I was sitting in the front was so that I didn't have any distractions from the back and that I was to listen like the dying only could so that I can examine my relationship with alcohol. And that's what I did. I began to listen to the people in the rooms. I became like a private investigator. And I started examining my relationship with alcohol based on your relationship with alcohol. And I started to identify. And most of the things I heard people share really blew me away because you were talking about things that I was doing that I thought that was normal. And you were saying that it wasn't normal. That this was called a disease called alcoholism. I've been fascinated ever since I got here. I was like, this is a what? I don't know about anybody else. But I was saying, I feel like I'm in a witness protection program, abducted by aliens. I was landed on a new planet because that's how it felt for me when I came to AA. I was sharing about this at this other meeting. I've had a lot of cousins and their children contact me through the years. And it really, I don't realize it at the time because when I do talk to them, I'm sharing this with them because this has been going on in our family for generations. Okay? I'm not the black sheep of the family. There's 4 members of our family who are black sheep. Okay, that's my cousin Petra, my brother, my father, my grandmother. Those are the ones who don't drink. I don't know how they survived, all the alcoholics and addicts in our family. I don't know. And so this has been a way of life for generations. And there's also spiritualists. I mean, it's just dysfunctional and insane. And so when they call me, the way I'm talking to my family, it just cracks me up. I be talking like I've been abducted by aliens. And I be saying to them, yeah, man, these people over here, they be like treating you really nice and they respect your body. And my name is Theresa. They don't call me stupid. And my cousins be like, what? And I'm like, yeah, man, that thing is called, you know what I found? That it's called respect. Wait. And they be like, yo, but I get respect. I'm like, no, this is a different respect. Like, that kind of respect we got out there was different. It just cracks me up. And so everything that I've done since I got here has been like fascinating. I came very childlike. I didn't even know that my name was Theresa. And the old timers made it very clear to me that I was to never call myself stupid again, that my name was Theresa, you know, and that I'm an alcoholic. And that's how I had to introduce myself. I had to follow the black on the white. They gave me the big book, and I needed to concede to my innermost self that I was truly an alcoholic. This was non-negotiable. If I was to go to a doctor with my symptoms and they give me my diagnoses, then I'm interested in the treatment. You know, I always crack up. I tell people, why join the 12-step program and not join the 12 and not do the 12 steps? Wait. Anyway. I didn't call myself an alcoholic because it sounded good and everybody was saying it. I started checking off the boxes. I was like, what is alcoholism? What is that? Everybody's calling themselves that. What is that? And it's outlined in the book. And I went and they took me through the book and I was like, oh my God, that's what I have. I have alcoholism. So you mean to tell me that I'm not stupid, I'm not an idiot, I'm not incompetent? I have an outstanding resume. Let me tell you, I only made 6 figures in own businesses until I came to Alcoholics Anonymous. That's a whole other story. I have an outstanding resume. I have an IQ that's ridiculous. Why can't I stop drinking? Very interesting. You gave me the answer to the riddle, to the conundrum. What was that all about? And I don't know about you, but I was relieved. I was relieved. Oh, is that what that is? Let me tell you, I've been with a lot of people who have illnesses, okay? And I've sat across many doctors when my family members have received their diagnoses, whether it's Parkinson's, cancer, Hep C, dementia, Alzheimer's, heart disease. Nobody's excited to find out that information. But there is a relief to understand that what these symptoms are now makes clear what I have, and then we become eager for the treatment. And I have the same experience when I came to you. Is that what this is? And you're telling me there's a solution? I don't need to live like that no more? I don't know about you, but alcohol was everything to me. It was my master. It didn't give me my breath anymore. I needed oxygen. I was suffocating. And you got the oxygen mask? Let's do this. I remember one of my sponsees got me a cup like that. It said, just do it. I just did whatever you guys told me to do. I wasn't into too much of the what they call a debating society or whatever. I don't know. I listened to everybody. Thank God nobody took advantage of my vulnerability. I don't know. If you told me to run jumping jacks around the building, I would have did it. I would have did it. Nobody lied to me. They told me you follow the black on the white. You tap into this source of power that lived inside of me. How do you get there? Through the steps. And so I put down the drink and I picked up the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. They used to say, keep it simple, stupid. They don't say that anymore. Everybody's a little touchy or whatever. No, keep it simple. They told me I had stinking thinking. I don't know about you, but sometimes there's portions in that big book, maybe because I'm very telemundo, you know what I mean? Very Spanish novela, you know? But I be reading the big book and I be like, ooh, like that's intense. Whenever we go through that part of the book about the peculiar mental twist, I be like, lock the door. I'm scared. Are you scared? You mean to tell me that my own mind is all so twisted that it convinces me of the lie and gathers evidence to prove against the real truth? That's deep. I don't know about y'all, but I was like, what? Are you kidding me right now? I tell people, could you imagine sponsoring me? Very dramatic. I was be like, yo, this is intense. And I remember telling my sponsor, because they read it in the chapter, when they read Vision for You, I kept telling her, okay, you can't transmit it. You can't transmit something you ain't got. And I used to tell her, what is it? Because I want to transmit it. You know what I'm saying? I had to keep doing the work and keep doing the work. They burned into my consciousness. Trust God, clean house, be of service. Trust God, clean house, be of service. And I used to tell them that you guys are brainwashing me. They used to say, your brain needs washing. I think I was only sassy about 3 times. They gave me a sponsor. That was my first time I was sassy. And I remember saying, I thought you're supposed to find somebody you identify with. They were like, you now identify with her. That was the end of that. That was my one sassy. And then my other sassy was I came to the meeting like half naked and wearing bustiers and fishnet stockings and kept getting up and down, getting coffee, waving at everybody. And then one of the old timers was like, hey, baby, what you looking for? We don't need to do that today, baby. And that was the end of that outfit. No. My goodness, you guys. I've been on a journey since I've been here. I've just been on a journey. It's this ride of uncovering and discovering, as Ralph says, about obtaining and maintaining a relationship with this power. I understood that I needed to find a new power. Sometimes I wonder if I have an advantage. No, I'm not under any illusion that I was running life on my own and by myself. I knew that my total reliance was upon alcohol, completely. And that had always been my higher power. And that higher power no longer was working. I needed another one. And you told me that I can find one here. But this one wasn't going to do incomprehensible, demoralizing things to me. This one wasn't going to abandon me. It wasn't going to destroy me. It wasn't going to destroy the love that I have or the love that is being given to me. It wasn't going to destroy any of that. As a matter of fact, that this power was bigger than alcohol. It was bigger, badder, and better. And I wanted to know what it was because I saw it in you. I saw women in 9604. So many of them has passed down. So many of them. These were ladies. These were women. They sat with dignity and respect. They were such ladies. And they had this look in their eye. I wanted that. I saw men that were respectful. I learned a lot of things in these rooms. I watch people still to this day. I learned what to be like, what not to be like. I love the traditions. I remember I would go to an old time and be like, hey, that guy is acting all crazy and he said he got 20 years. What's the matter with him? And they used to tell me, him? You should have seen him when he got here. That's growth. I used to be like, what? They're like, yeah, man, that's improvement. I'm like, wow, okay. Anyway, I noticed that people were sober for a long time. I got sober around a lot of Skid Row drunks. They were grateful to have clean underwear and teeth. That was a good day, no? And so I wanted to tap into that power, and I have. You know, all the things that I didn't experience when I was out there the first 24 years of my life, I've experienced them, felt them, processed them, seen them here. Now I got new adjectives. No? The adjectives I've acquired through the years is things like PTSD and anxiety and depression. And now we're throwing, fibromyalgia. And now we're throwing menopause into the mix. I'm in my 50s. I got new adjectives. And so I began going on this journey to tap into this power. And I keep cleaning house, and I keep cleaning house, and I keep cleaning house. And then I watched something happen to Theresa. I don't know anything about setting boundaries. I get it, setting boundaries and building self-esteem and self-worth. I hear you. Well, my job was to do the steps. I'm no longer the CEO of Theresa Incorporated. What the big book said to me was I wasn't a bad person for the illness that I was suffering from. And that it wasn't my fault. It's just an illness that I had. And that I may not be responsible for my disease, but I'm responsible for my recovery. Is what they taught me. I may not be able to work out my life and figure out what's going on and how to fix it or change it. The only thing I needed to focus on was to work these steps and to work these steps and to work these traditions. And that was my assignment. And if I did that work and if I just showed up to that task with a mustard seed of willingness, everything else will do whatever it needs to do. And that's what ended up happening. I watched myself become a lady of dignity and integrity and self-respect. I watch myself, what they call set boundaries. You know what I mean? I watch myself do those things. I always say, look, if I was able to modify my behavior, I don't need to be around a group with people I don't normally mix. There's not a lot of Puerto Ricans, in meetings. You know what I'm saying? There's not a lot of people. No, I'm used to hanging out with Puerto Ricans, okay? There's not too many of you out there. I have to go to New York for that. Okay? And so if I could change my behavior, then I would just change my behavior and go hang out with people that I normally mix with. I can't do anything about it. So I come here and I practice these principles to the best of my ability. Thank God we're not all crazy on the same day. We take turns, And then I start watching myself do something. And I watch myself become a sister, a daughter, a friend, a neighbor, an aunt. I like being an aunt. That's so much fun. Oh my goodness. My nephews love their titis so much. I always cry when I talk about it. Oh, they love me so much. My goodness. And I love them. I don't even have words for that. I enjoy being a daughter. I enjoy being a sister. You taught me how to be useful and to now be effective. And I said, God, take all of me. What will you have me be? What will you have me do? And for the majority of the time, I've been taking care of most of my perpetrators and my abusers, and practice the gift of forgiveness and compassion. And I've watched so much happen in 30 years. I've watched me unfold. I've watched me mature and arrive at places that I think I finally arrived and then find out that I didn't know nothing at all. I've watched my spiritual muscles get stretched. I tell people, I came here and you guys taught me this thing called love, man. This thing called love is extraordinary. You opened up my heart and it's powerful and it's beautiful and it's tender and it's sweet. And I've also learned what it is to cry. I've been heartbroken. Ouch. I've learned what it is to laugh. Oh, I like laughing. And I've also learned what it is to cry. Don't rob me of either one of those experiences. Welcome to the land of the living. Today I am more present and awake than ever before. Where am I at today? Oh, goodness. As I said, mommy lives with me now. Mommy has Alzheimer's. I got to make fun out of that, but sometimes I get a little tired. You know what I'm saying? That's 24/7. And I already told you a little bit of the story of mommy and I, so this has definitely been a journey, And I have to think about what it must be like for her. You know what I mean? I can't imagine what that must be like for my mom. The child that you didn't want, that you try to get rid of and kill and abuse, and that's the only one now that's left that takes care of you and feeds you and bathes you and changes your diaper. Like, I don't know what that must be like for her. Well, maybe she doesn't even realize it. You know what I mean? But I'm in awe about that, And I don't do it with remorse or, I don't know, it's just very interesting. Many have heard me through the years talk about the losses of, my father and my brother. And, not too long ago, my best friend, and some losses have really kicked my butt around here, guys. You know, grief is really something. I think the two areas that dropped me to my knees was grief, to be heartbroken. There's not words to describe that. That's an experience. And the other is physical pain, uh, because physical pain just dominates the brain. You know? But no matter what's gone on in my life, whether I'm living in ICU or hospice and putting people on life support or making medical decisions, I've always suited up and showed up and participated in my recovery and take phone calls. You know, I don't in ICU and in cafes of hospitals, and I don't know how not to give this program away. I just don't. Cracks me up when people say, no, so and so is busy. I'm like, I'm always busy. I'm like, so you say, do you mind talking to me? Let me know when you're not busy. I'm like, if you wait for me to not be busy, you'll never talk to me. You'll never get hold of me. Recently, the place that I'm at, aside from mommy being here, for me, this has been a lot of fun and exciting experience, and it's so personal and so intimate. And that is school. Right before I said the meeting, I just finished doing that class, and I'm doing full time 4 classes. Right after I finish this meeting, I have a quiz in my sociology class, and I need to finish an essay in my psychology class. And I just did the quiz in African American Studies, and I'm having so much fun. Uh, it's not the academia that I'm getting from this experience. It's more of teaching me a lot about intuition and trust, listening. It's personal. It's like nobody else cares that I'm going to school. And I don't mean that, I mean facetiously. Nobody really does care. You know, sometimes I share with people and they're like, okay, so now back to me. And I think I like that. I think that this is something for me. I take care of a lot of people. I'm of service to a lot of folks. And it just feels like it's something for me that I really enjoy. And it makes me happy. It also gives me the ability to go, I can't do that right now. I got to finish this assignment, this quiz. It gives me permission to have a timeout. And the other thing that the reward or the gift that I've gotten amongst many is to watch my nephews, who are the next generation, to receive the residue of what this program has given me in their life. They haven't even come close, to the experience that my brother and I grew up in. Just not recently, my nephew was here. I've been sharing this because it was funny because they haven't really been around the family other than myself. And the youngest was here, and he went and talked to mommy. And he was like, so abuela, can you tell me stories about when you were a kid? And I was in the kitchen, and mommy's like, oh, we used to kill people. I was like, okay, story time over. And he was like, word? He was like, what, abuela? What did you just say? The Alzheimer's, no way. Oh my goodness. But I watch these boys say things like, I love you, I'm uncomfortable, this is awkward. Not too long ago, the youngest, again, he called me and said, hey, Titi, when you get back in town, I'd like to read a 5th step to you, because they learned the 12 steps, right? He goes, can I read my 5th step? And I was like, no problem, but I'm not traveling next weekend, so I'll come over and we'll do the 5th step. And he was like, I kind of think I need to do that sooner. I got some issues going on. Wait. Anyway, I love that. Oh, goodness. Oh, man. That is just so special. We don't realize the ripple effect, no? That happens around here. I know Ralph talks about that a lot. Ralph White always says to me that whenever I'm standing at a podium or in a room, he sees, my father, my brother, my nephew standing behind me. We send fathers back to their homes and mothers back to their homes and employees back to, back to their jobs. And that's what happens around in these rooms. And I get to be a witness and a part of that. And I'm forever grateful that Alcoholics Anonymous has given me just a new life. And I don't say beyond my wildest dreams, because when I came to you, I never dreamed. I didn't even know what they were. And so you even taught me how to do that. And so I always like to end with calling God a show off, because I believe that's what God is. That he picks, he takes a girl like me, unloved, unwanted, unnecessary, and insignificant. And he picks me up and dusts me off and builds me up so you can see what he could do. That's why I call him a show off. Can't take no credit for it. I can't even pat myself on the back. I just use the mustard seed of willingness. And I say, if this power can do this for me, could you imagine what he can do for you? Well, for some reason, I've been sharing this often. Maybe I just need to keep remembering it. When someone asked me some years ago, Theresa, tell me about your dash. And I said, I don't know. What is the dash? And they said, well, on your tombstone is the date that you're born and then the date that you die. And in between is the dash. And if you were to die right now, this moment, and maybe it's poignant to all that we're experiencing today, because immortality is before us. If you were to die this moment today, what would they say about your dash? And since we don't know the day that we're going to die, every moment, every 24 hours, I get to contribute to that dash. And I don't know about you, but I attended a lot of funerals. And what we don't talk about when the person who dies, we don't talk about what car they drove, what job they had, or how much money they had in their bank account. We talk about their character, and we talk about the life that they lived. And all I know that 30 years ago, if I would have died, that ending date, what that dash would have said was, it was about time. Finally, we can get some rest. We never wanted her here anyway. But certainly if I was to die today, the things that Alcoholics Anonymous and a loving God and these 12 steps and 12 traditions have given me to contribute to that dash is absolutely, I'm just overpaid. Overpaid. And I just get to contribute today. Just today. The things they would say about that dash today. I can rest in peace if necessary, So I want to thank you guys so much for allowing the God in you to help discover the God in me so that I can do the same for others. Thank you all so much for doing a 12-step call on me. Thank you.